can kind of jump right into it, if you'd like, because I would love to just start off and hear about your story and kick it off of how you got into sales and maybe hear more about how you got into sales management and then that transition.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I guess let me take this back to Houston, Texas. I grew up in the Katy area, if anybody's familiar with Katy, right outside of Houston. Went to school for audio engineering. So I thought my whole life I'm going to be like the next big producer in hip hop. So started my career out hustling, making beats, trying to get my name out there with the local artist community and eventually hit a wall. I found out A, I'm not as talented as I really thought I was, and B, trying to hustle beats at 25 bucks a pop isn't going to pay the bills forever. So I decided I had to make a move. I had an RV dealership in my backyard called Ron Hoover RV and Marine, and they were hiring sales professionals. So I walked into the door totally green, had on a nice suit and tie, ready to show up. And I was like, look, I don't know the first thing about sales or RVs, but I'm going to outwork everybody here. Just give me an opportunity, and I promise I'm not going to let you down. Started out on the sales floor, had a lot of success right out the gate, and then ultimately I kind of let them know with my background in audio production, a lot of that came with marketing as well, because there's not really a hub for selling beats. So had to kind of explain how my skills would translate over, but they gave me the opportunity to become the internet director with them. So started managing a BDC type department, was doing a lot of social media work as well, and really impressed my general manager. He had a chance to go work for Group One Automotive, and he took me with him. So from Katy, Texas, up to Tulsa, Oklahoma, which is where I currently reside now. Started out as an internet director with Group One, worked my way up into the finance department, and ultimately COVID destroyed my beloved auto industry. So I pivoted into B2B sales. I was selling software as a service for a little while, and then ultimately found out that wasn't having the best time with the leadership team there. So I pivoted away. I started running my own freelance media marketing business, primarily in the cannabis space for the first few years when Oklahoma was kind of in the middle of their green rush. So I had a lot of fun doing that. Was bopping around, doing a lot of B2B sales, creating photos, videos, a whole slew of different offerings for different cannabis companies here in Oklahoma. But coming from that industry, it's you got to think about where that industry came from, right? So it's not always the most reputable people. I'm not the
Yeah.
best at writing contracts. So after being burned a number of times, I was like, okay, I need to get my feet back into some, real sales. And got a call from one of my buddies who I was selling software with, and he was like, "Hey, I have an opportunity in the recruiting space. I'm trying to run this like a sales department. How about you come on board and check this out? I think we can make a big impact here." So that's when my foray into recruiting got started. I was with Momentum Solar, and very high volume, high turnover. We were recruiting for field marketers, so you kind of know how that game goes. It's a revolving door all the time. But really got my feet wet in recruiting, and I found that not even though everybody I brought into the business wasn't always going to be a perfect fit, the ones who did really hit the ground running and really took advantage of the opportunities had life changing results. So I really found a passion in being able to improve people's lives through giving them that hand up into the next step of their career and really open up a door. So ended up walking away from Momentum after some leadership changes, but always wanted to get back into that opportunity. And fast forward a few years, had an opportunity to come work at Home Genius. Same buddy, Matt Turley, he's our director of field marketing for the Carolinas. He gave me a shout and was like, "Hey, Keegan, I want you to move out to Charlotte and knock doors with me." Ty, I'd never knocked a door a day in my decade-long career, and quite frankly, I thought I was a little bit past out at this point, and told him to kick rocks at
Yeah.
first. And he was like, "Dude, do a little bit of research. You're not going to be knocking doors forever. Like, you're going to be able to move about the organization when the time comes." So I went out to Charlotte. I was knocking doors 7 days a week and sleeping on his couch while we were trying to open up that market out there. Had to earn the right to call myself a leader in the business. So started out as an entry-level field marketer, working among a bunch of 18, 20-year-old kids. Led the charge, though, became the assistant director of the Carolinas in a short time there. And then my wife got pregnant. I went home for a vacation 2 weeks later after getting back. She's like, "Hey, I'm pregnant. It's time for you to quit messing around, get back home and take care of me." So I got on the phone with the leadership team. I was like, "Hey, guys, like we got to make something work. I need to go remote. I need to have another opportunity where not only can I make great money, but I see the vision. I want to be on board here. Like, where can I plug in?" And they're looking over my resume and they're like, wait a second, you have a talent acquisition background. We're really looking to open up a new role within our talent department as like a career interviewer. How do you feel about that? And I was like, dude, sign me up. I get to flap my lip and get people jobs all day. Like, that's awesome. I love it. So yeah, that's where that started. I've been doing career interviewing since June with Home Genius, and it's been a blast ever since. We're really building out this department and making great things happen.
Okay. And what does that role look like? You called it career interviewing.
Yeah, so from 8 a.m. to about 6 p.m. every night, I'm on the horn with different sales representatives looking for a new role, and getting to feel people out, right? You got to
Hmm.
pass the vibe check, you got to pass the sniff test. So it's probably about 15 to 20 minutes worth of Q&A in the front half of the call, getting to know the candidate. Then I'll walk them through what the career journey looks like here at Home Genius. And once I get through my little PowerPoint presentation, it's, hey, okay, like let me turn my cap on backwards and grill you, for a lack of a better way to put it. Like, hey, do you really got the stuff you say you got? Um, and from there, a few other steps in the process, but ultimately get them into a final interview with the directors on the ground at the local level. And hey, if they pass the test, they pass the test, they become a genius.
And what does that take? What do you look for when it comes to speaking to these reps?
So it really depends, right? So if you're coming from no sales background whatsoever, my favorites are probably the bartenders, right? The people who are, I mean, are you familiar with disc test?
Yeah.
Yeah, so high D, high I individuals. Do you have the gift of gab? Can you hold a conversation with me? Are you fun? Are you going to smile when I crack a stupid joke at you, just to make me feel good, right?
Hmm.
So as long as like you're bringing great energy. You have that high I personality, and I can tell that you have that high D somewhere in there. As long as it's above that 50% line. Okay, like hey, I can teach you how to close a deal. That's easy enough, but I can't teach you to have charisma or personality or anything like that.
Mm.
So that's where I'm finding the diamonds in the rough. As far as people who are coming into the business with actual sales talent, I really want to see like what's your skills. So once we get into one call closing, not everybody comes from a one call close background. So it's like, hey, how are you going to convince a customer to go with you right here, right now, today, versus trying to follow up with somebody for 3, 4 weeks at a time. And, if you're coming from an automotive world where it's a pure one call close, you got to be able to get me to go on board with you. If you're coming from a B2B world, I might have to help you out a little bit, but if you know how to overcome objections, you know how to, just walk the walk at the end of the day,
Mm.
right? That's an easy plug and play fit because if you have a hunting mentality, then hey, if I'm giving you cold leads and you just have to focus on closing deals from here on out, um, you know, let's focus on what you do best, and that's how our business model works. At the end of the day, we're hooking reps up with 8 to 12 appointments a week. If they can come in and close those deals, one call close, they're going to be killers because they're not having to follow up, they're not having to email, they're not having to manage a project, anything of that nature. So that's really what I'm
Mm.
looking for at the end of the day is high ticket closers.
Yeah, talk a little bit about that because so are you guys hiring all the time? Because I bet people watching this are going to be looking for possibly a role like that. So can you talk a little bit about how often you guys are bringing reps on board?
Yeah, so I mean, like sales, unfortunately, people find out they can't hack it sooner than later. So it is a little bit of a revolving door. I won't lie to you there. But yeah, we do monthly classes in all of our markets. So our South Division has a class coming up here on the 25th, and then our next opportunity to get in the door with us would be September 29th. So kind of the tail end of the month for that division. Your East is I think their class starts on the 15th of September, so probably sometime 15th of October, that range. So yeah, typically bringing on anywhere between 2 and 6 individuals per market that we serve. We're really looking for the best of the best in each and every market that we deliver in.
And you mentioned like one call closability, ability to handle objections. How do you assess that in your interview process?
Yeah, so I have a list of questions that I typically tend to go through. It's like, hey, if you're working with a customer and you feel a deal starting to slip away from you, how are you going to go about pivoting to get that deal back on track, right? And some people will be like, oh, I don't know. I'll just tell them, hey, good luck. I'll give you a call later. And that's automatically, DQ right there, right? But if you're like, hey, no, like I'm gonna step away, I'm gonna pull back everything. We're not even gonna talk about sales for the next 10 minutes. We're gonna just build some more rapport, build some more trust, and then I'm gonna ask a question that'll get me back in the door, right? That's the kind of things that I'm looking for is, are you a high I like a EQ type of person? Like, what's your emotional intelligence? Can you read people? Can you know when those deals are starting to get away from you? How do you know when you're setting them up for a close, right? Because if you ask for the business too early, then you're dealing with a whole bunch of objections from there. So, I mean, how are you going about your sales process from A to Z in order to ask for the business and, have minimal objections?
So those are things you're asking live on the interview, like what's your sales process? Situational based questions. What would you do in XYZ scenario? And that kind of lets you know if that person would be a killer in that space.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, because you mentioned also people that have a track record can already close, will crush, will do well. How important is that previous sales experience for you when you're considering hiring someone?
Honestly, it's not the most important. I mean, some of the best people in our business came in, like I said, from bartending or waiting tables, or coming from a background where it's just nothing but building rapport and building trust, right? Because the
Mm.
guy at the bar who can upsell you and get you to spend $100 more on drinks than you were thinking you were going to that night is damn sure gonna be able to close you when it comes down to getting to business. So honestly, we have a super proven track record with our training classes. So I have nothing but confidence in our sales leadership to be able to train, anybody with, like I said, that high D, high I personality. They can walk in the door and be a killer right away. But it's up to everybody's personal aptitude too. At the end of the day, like you have to
Mm.
really want to be successful if you're coming into this totally green. So if you're not willing to spend those late nights studying, you're not willing to be determined, go shadow when you have open appointments on your calendar. Really working with some of the top dogs, hitting up the guys on Slack, like, hey, you're killing it. Give me some nuggets. Like, what can I do to improve my game? If you're not bringing that to the table, then it's probably not going to work out.
So it seems like you're mainly not necessarily looking for someone with, millions collected. If they have that, great. But it's like, what's your personality like? Can you have a good conversation? Are you emotionally intelligent to the point where you know how to motivate people to move forward with something that's a good fit for them? Kind of like really making sure that they have the personality traits that can't really be taught. And you guys are confident you can bring the sales stuff to it and say, hey, this is the actual strategy, but I can't, if you're just not a confident speaker, I can't really help you there. Is that more so
Yeah,
what you're
exactly.
going for?
So we like to call it the it factor here, right?
Yeah.
It's the things you can't teach somebody. Confidence, strong communication skills. You got to be
Yeah.
competitive. The home remodeling space in particular, and then a little sprinkle of charisma never hurt nobody either, right?
Yeah, I've heard people
So
call it sales DNA. You
yeah,
just gotta
yeah,
have it.
exactly.
Some people just do, some people don't.
And it's okay if you don't, but you're not going to have a good time in sales if that's not who you are at the end of the day.
So can someone learn it? Can someone like that's maybe more timid, more shy, more introverted? I mean, I don't think you necessarily have to be an extrovert, but maybe someone that doesn't have some of those traits innately, can they learn it so that, or do you think it's just like you either got it or you don't?
You got to be determined. You got to really be able to put on a mask, if you will. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all actors to a certain degree, right? So if you can kind of step out of who you are at home, like out of your body,
Mm.
and step into this big personality that doesn't, that's not who you are on a 24-hour basis. But when you're in front of that customer, you lock in and you're that guy, then yeah, absolutely. But if you're not able to do that and it's not innately who you are, it you got an uphill battle. But I don't know. Charisma can be taught. It's a skill like anything else. But if you're not willing to push yourself and put yourself in really awkward situations to see like can you make it to that level, it's kind of a tough game there.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess people could eventually learn it, but it's they gotta have a really strong reason to, or else just why not? Why put yourself through that?
Yeah.
Just get another job.
Yeah, exactly. Quick Trip's always hiring. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you go to Walmart and get a job tomorrow, no problem. Like, why do you want to be in sales, and how bad do you want to be in sales? Because
Mm.
if you're like, oh yeah, well, I didn't have a college degree, but I want to make 200 grand a year. It's like, okay, well, are you able to get outside of your comfort zone enough to make yourself look a little silly and then ask somebody for, $100,000? Because if you're not
Hmm.
comfortable with either of those things, you're not going to hack it. At least in high ticket sales, you might be able to, sell knives or something else.
Yeah. Yeah. And how do people actually get on these interviews with you? Because I'm sure when you post a job post, hundreds, maybe at this point, you've got thousands of applications in the ATS. What do you look at to actually choose who gets on? Because you're mainly looking at resumes, maybe videos. What do you look at?
Yeah, so our recruiting team is definitely going over resumes. We have a big screening call. I mean, at the end of the day, the resume is not the most important thing to us. Like I said, it's the emotional intelligence. Can you be a straight shooter with me? And like I said, can you have a good conversation? Can you cut up? Can you make me laugh a little bit? Can we have a good
Hmm.
time on the phone? Because if you bring that great energy, I can teach you the rest of the stuff.
Hmm.
But if you're kind of a stick in the mud and got a bad attitude, it's not going to work here.
But how do they get to that point? Because they send you a resume. You're not going to look at the resume and say, "Yeah, this guy would make me laugh." So how do they actually get to that point where they're on the phone with you?
Oh yeah, so I mean, the recruiters are the ones who kind of screen everybody. I am not as involved in that side of the process as
So
much as I
everyone
am
gets kind of
going.
like a call.
Yeah, everybody will get a
Okay.
call. They'll get vetted over the phone, and as long as they pass the sniff test on the phone, they get to hop on a call with me and get to look at my ugly face flapping my mug for a couple minutes.
And I'm sure obviously there's a lot of, hey, can we just vibe? But I'm sure there's also some framework that you follow to say, hey, this one's a yes and this one's a no. What does that look like for your screeners?
To be honest with you, I don't really know. I've only been in this side of the business for going on about 3.5 months now. So I haven't gotten my feet wet in the true recruiting side of it. I've done a little bit of self-sourcing, but I kind of have my own process for that.
So you trust the screeners to bring you the right people, and then you have your process for who you're going to choose going forward. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. What would you say when it comes to hiring a sales rep is your number one biggest mistake that you've made?
Sometimes people pass the vibe check, but they might have said something that have gone under the radar that I didn't catch during the initial talk. Like one thing, for example, is when I talk to people about their stats, right? It's like, okay, hey, like, how
Mhm.
did you do it? Your previous role at the dealership? Oh yeah, well, we were doing 120 cars a month. Okay, that's great. I'm glad you got a healthy dealership and everything's going well for your general manager over there. But how many deals did you do? You know, there's a couple times where people have been able to cut up. They're able to have a conversation, but when it comes to the tough questions, they kind of obfuscate where the answer is going. And if you're not
Mm,
really sharp and on point, you're going to miss that 100% of the time.
so people kind of just giving vague answers.
Yeah, people will throw up those kind of smoke screens, so you gotta come prepared with your numbers. That's probably one of my best tips for people out there interviewing. Know your numbers. You're a sales guy at the end of the day. I mean, at least if you're interviewing with me, you got to know your stats. Otherwise, you're gonna have a tough ride with me because I'm gonna grill you if I catch it.
Yeah, I want you to repeat that because I've said this a million times, but I can't tell you how many times I've gotten on with someone where I said, "Okay, well, tell me about your last offer," and they didn't know their close rate, didn't know their show rate, didn't know all of these things, even though they performed well on the role. So, how important is it for them to know all of their numbers?
I mean, you don't have to know the nitty gritty kind of outliers, the fun reports that you pull up in your CRM, right? But the basics, know your KPIs that your managers measure, like know what constitutes success in your business. So, I mean, for us, it's what's your net volume on a monthly basis? What's your close rate? What's your net sales per lead issued?
Mm,
If those are stats that correlate to the industry that you were in previously, I mean, it really varies industry to industry, but um, know the important numbers that your current managers are tracking for your success. I mean, another thing I would say is, how do you stack up against the rest of the people in your office? Are you the top dog? Are you the middle of the
mm.
pack? Like, where do you kind of fall in that scale? Are you in the top three every month? Are you, you know, on a can't tell you how many times people have stepped into an interview and they're like, "Yeah, I'm on a PIP right now," and it's just like, "Oh, well, I probably don't want to touch you then if you're about to get canned over there. Like, I don't think you're gonna be able to close over here, man."
So you find that important if they're like, yeah, I've been consistently top three on the team. I've been consistently number one. That's something they should bring up in the interview.
I think it's important. I mean, nobody wants to brag on, or some people do, but it's okay to humble brag on yourself in an interview, right? I mean, that's what you're there for anyway. Like you're
Yeah,
supposed to show
selling
off like
yourself.
you're that guy, right? Yeah, you got to sell yourself. So if you're not selling yourself, I mean, especially coming into a sales job, it's like if you can't sell yourself, how can I trust you to sell a car, or sell a roof or whatever widget you're selling at the end of the day?
Fair enough, fair enough. And I know you've got your screeners that are calling people, passing them off to you. If someone's struggling to get past that screener, how can they skip the line? Would shooting you DM, giving you a cold call if they got your number somehow, would that be a good way to skip the line? Or are you kind of like, don't DM me, don't reach out directly, go through my screeners and I'll take it from there?
No, give me a shout. I mean, I'm not as available as a lot of my screeners are, that's for sure. I mean, but we'll find time to chat. I mean, I'll go offline at the end of the day if you want to talk at 8 o'clock at night. Hey, let's do it. I'm always about bringing in the top talent. But if you've tried to go through my screeners and they've rejected you, and I catch that when we're talking, uh, you're probably gonna get blacklisted from applying again.
Yeah, how much would you value someone's persistence and follow up? Because I know it's a trait that you probably would want in your sales guy. So if someone's like following up with you consistently, is that a good thing or would that make, I mean, obviously it depends on the person probably, but
Depends on the
how do you
person and the
rate
type
that?
of role, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, with us being a one call close company, I want you to close me on why you should be here when I have you in front of me, right? If you have to follow up with me and keep on trying to convince me, oh, I'm the best fit, I'm a great fit, blah blah blah, it's just like, all right, dude, like obviously we didn't extend, the rest of the process to you. You got a questionnaire and you got an email later saying, hey, thanks for trying. We appreciate you applying, but weren't selected this round. If you just keep blowing me up after you get that email saying, "Oh yeah, but I'm a great fit. I'm a great fit," I'm gonna throw up the X and
Yeah, but it's the same as like on a sales call, right? If you don't close the prospect, you're not going to follow up being like ready to buy, ready to buy, ready to buy. Is there
right.
something they could send you? Maybe not like every week, but is there something they could say or do or show, whether it's a month, 2 months, 6 months down the road to get a second chance?
Absolutely. So it would have to go down to the reason why they were rejected in the first place, right? If it was some massive red flag, I'm probably
Yeah.
not going to touch you with a 10-foot pole. But if it's like, hey, I know I was super green when I talked to you before, but here's how I'm bettering myself as a salesperson currently. I'm going to a Grant Cardone class. I'm listening to Jeremy Miner. I'm, picking up skills along the way and trying to really better myself.
Hmm.
Hey, like, cool. If you're getting better and you're serious about this, you're working on the areas where you might have missed us the first time. That shows me that you're determined. Let's talk. You know what I mean? I'd rather, work with somebody who has that grit and that tenacity to, hey, you shut me down the first time, but I'm still here, man. Let's go. You know what I mean? But it has to have some substance to it, right? It can't just be like, oh yeah, well, you rejected me this time. I'm gonna go work at Quick Trip for a few months, and then maybe I'll try again in 6 months once the new hiring cycle rolls around. So
Hmm.
if you're proving that you're in trying to increase, your odds of getting hired somewhere, and you love what our vision and our company's about, and you really sell me on, oh yeah, well, I could work any sales job now based on these certificates and this training I've gone through, but I'm really honed in and locked into what you guys are doing over there. Hey, let's have a conversation because that means the world to me.
Awesome. Yeah. So you really want people to show that they care about not only their own growth, but they would just love to work with the company.
Absolutely.
When it comes to, because some people just sit on interviews and get grilled, like you said, you have that session, 15 minutes in after the Q&A and the you present what you guys do, you kind of grill them a bit. Um, do you usually give an opportunity for the reps to ask you questions?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, at the end of every section of my spiel, it's, hey, what questions do you have regarding, compensation, schedule, anything about the company history itself? Do you want to know about my personal journey? Hey, let's chat. I want to be totally transparent in this process because if you're not totally transparent, you're not going to bring in top talent. Period.
Does that
Like,
matter to you in terms of like, sorry to interrupt, but I was just gonna
no,
say,
you're
does it matter if you have two reps, all things the same, all things equal, would you pick the rep that had questions over the one that said, no, I don't have any questions?
No, not necessarily. I mean, if I can tell that they truly understood what was going on and, sharp guy, well spoken, concise, and to the point. And if they've been in the industry before, it's like, okay, well, been here, done that. I understand this is very comparable to what I've done before. Hey, cool, no worries. If it's the guy who has a million questions, awesome. That tells me you're engaged. You want to learn more. You want to make sure you're, dotting all your T's, crossing all your I's, right? So totally fine with either or. I don't think that's really going to sway me either way. But in that same
Mm,
token, some people view the question asking as a way to sound more intelligent on a job interview. That
mm,
you're not going to sell yourself by asking a ton of questions at the end of the
mm.
day. It does look good. It shows that you're engaged, but that's not everybody's interview style, and I understand that. And it is what it is.
What, so you're saying it doesn't really sway you. Has there ever been a time where someone's questions made you kind of like change your mind and be like, I don't really want to work with this person?
If it's regarding like flexibility, right? Because everybody wants a flexible schedule these days. Nobody wants to really work anymore. So when it's like, hey, I want flexibility in my schedule, my follow-up question is always, hey, that means different things to different people. What does that mean to you exactly? And if they start going into, oh, well, I want time off for this, and I want time off for that, and oh, what if my dog needs to go to the vet and it's an emergency? It's like, okay, hey man, like emergencies happen, that's great, but like, are you going to work here at all, or are you just going to take vacation every 2 3 weeks? Because we're building $1 billion business here. Like, if you're going to take a bunch of time off, I'm going to find somebody who's ready to hustle and ready to grind.
Hmm. On the flip
Uh,
side, has someone ever asked like a question that made you like them as a candidate more?
um, I'm sorry, ask that again. I want to make sure I totally heard you and understand.
Yeah, because I know you said that the questions don't necessarily sway you, but I'm just trying to get a sense of if someone has ever asked a question, because they can ask a question about time off and stuff that might be a little tick in the red flag box. Has there been ever a time where someone's asked a question where you're like, that was a really intelligent question. I think this guy's a would be a good sales rep for the team.
When it comes down to the nitty gritty stuff where I haven't been on the ground experiencing it myself, and they're a little bit more seasoned within our industry. A lot of people want to talk to somebody on the ground because they have a litany of questions that kind of go over my head. And, as a talent rep, you don't always get all the answers. They try and keep some things out of your purview. So whenever I get people who are like, hey, man, I love everything I'm hearing here. You've been totally transparent in this process, but I want to speak to somebody who's doing it on the ground. I never object to that because it's like, yeah, this guy really wants to do his due diligence. I mean, especially if they've come in and they're like, look, I've looked over every review you guys have had. I've been on all of your web pages. I know everything about Home Genius more than you do, but I want to talk to somebody who's actually doing this. Cool, man. Let me get you on the phone with one of my guys. They're going to tell you, what their experience is like. And then you have a real picture of what's going on. Some people probably wouldn't be open to doing that, some other companies, but like I said, transparency is how you win the top talent. You got to open up those doors for people to have those open lines of communications with your people on the ground.
Mm-hmm. 100%. Yeah, especially because there's a lot of things that can get misconstrued between different departments and teams. It could be a little bit different than what maybe you or other people think it actually looks like. When it comes to giving people like a trial run, getting them on the team, what is your kind of like timeline for results that you wait for? Do you say, hey, this guy's got to perform in the first 2 weeks? This guy's got to perform, look at it after a first month. Like, what does that actually look like? Or are you not involved necessarily in that part?
I'm not involved in that part necessarily, but our company does do a 90-day review.
Okay.
So, hey, you got 90 days to learn this business. You're going to have all of the resources that we could possibly pour into you available at your disposal. Do you take advantage of those resources? Are you meeting those KPIs that we set out for you? After those 90 days, hey, let's have a discussion. But leading up to that, I mean, it's really you're getting vetted all the way along the way, and conversations will be had to kind of steer your career path in those first 90 days. But as far as the particulars, little bit over my head
Okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. So you're not too involved in the sales management side of the team, strictly just recruiting all day?
all day.
Awesome. Do you have any, I think that's pretty much it for the questions I've had for you. Do you have any like final big pieces of advice for sales reps looking to land a role in your industry?
Come in with energy. If there's one thing that I've noticed between me and my screeners, we get on the phone and kind of debrief after most of our interviews, and they're just like, "Hey, this guy was awesome over the phone, had tons of personality, showed up to my meeting, and they were just kind of a stick in the mud." You got to be super high energy all the way throughout the process because, like we said earlier, you're selling yourself at the end of the day. If you're not making a great first impression with everybody you meet when it comes to joining an organization, it's it's not going to work out for you because all the people that you're meeting along the way are going to have some sort of say whether you join that company or not. So always have your selling shoes on, always come ready to play. Um, and then, like we said earlier, bring some stories, tie those to who you are as a person, what you've been able to produce. Because if I ask you about a time where you had to overcome an objection to get a deal done, and you're just like, oh well, I can't think of any. It's like, well, man, I'm looking at your resume, and you've been in sales for 10 years. You can't think of one instance where you had to overcome an objection. I don't think you've been in sales for 10 years, or you are just a god. Teach me your ways.
Fair enough. That is good advice, especially the stories thing, because like you've seen me say, and what we said plenty of times in this interview, there's so many, you're looking for traits. You're looking for different traits, not necessarily track record. Track record helps, but at the end of the day, if someone has that emotional intelligence, if someone has that drive, if someone has these traits that you're looking for, chances are they're gonna get further in the process or land the role because they'll probably produce. So having those stories that prove those traits with great energy to showcase that, hey, we can vibe and have a good conversation, that's gonna take people pretty far in the process. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I mean, it really depends on like where you're interviewing too, right? Like company culture is kind of the cornerstone of everything we do here. So like if you don't pass the vibe check, you're just not going to work here. I don't care if you've sold $10 million in the past 5 years. Like that doesn't matter to me. If we can't hang out and cut up, you're not going to last long or get in the door for a final. So it really it's all about the personality at the end of the day. I mean, at least when it
Yeah.
comes to company culture, if you want to go work, some B2B job where you're working a 180-day sales cycle, that's great. And, you can beat people up over email time and time again. But if you want to be in the mix, one call closing, you got to have a little bit of personality in life too.
100%. The last person that I jumped on with, he said, I got to be able to see myself locked in an elevator with you having a good time if we ever got
Yeah.
trapped.
Yeah, absolutely. The way we look at it is like, yeah, could I go to the bar with you after work, have a margarita, and cut up with you for a couple hours, right? If I can't see me hanging out with you and cutting up, then I don't think you're gonna be able to cut up with anybody else in my organization because I mean that's our job all day is cut up.
And that's good. That's good because, organizations that are together like that, cultural wise, you can kind of have the after work dinners, you can have the team outings and still get together and, have a good time. You kind of are working towards, it's kind of like almost a family, and you're
Yeah,
working
absolutely.
working hard for each other, makes things easier for sure.
But
Awesome,
yeah,
awesome. Well, yeah, Keegan, that is all the questions I had for you, man. It was really, really good to have you on. You dropped some really good value for sales reps. I'm really excited for this one to go live because I want sales reps to understand some of the things you talked about. I think it would make a huge difference because that personality, those traits, those things are just massive, massive, massive. And I know a lot of people are kind of stuck in the idea of, having perfect mock calls or perfect scripts when at the end of the day it comes down to a lot of landing roles is the culture fit, is the energy. I get probably 10 messages a day from people saying, how do I get a role if I don't have experience? How do I get a role if I don't have experience? How do I get a role if I don't have experience? And then we have you here saying, well, listen, experience is not all that important. So
I
love it.
mean, I'd rather take somebody with no experience walking in off the street if they have a personality versus the guy who's been doing the job for 10 to 15 years, who's A, thinks they know it all, isn't moldable or coachable or ready to conform to our systems and processes. And, just is a stick in the mud, in an old curmudgeon. We don't want that on our team. We want some youth. We want some energy. You got to be able to bring that or you're not going to be successful in our business. or,
100%.
or any sales organization, worth a lick of salt for that matter. So
100%. I found, yeah, there are people that will just outperform the veteran because they are so stuck in their style of selling. But what a lot of people don't understand is every company kind of does things slightly differently. And if they're already crushing it, you might as well fall in line. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, you know?
exactly. We're scaling up. Our first year we did $2.7 million in business. This past year we just surpassed $161 million in revenue. So you don't go from that to 2.7 to 161 without having a locked in playbook. You know what I mean? Step in and just follow the playbook. You're going to make a ton of money. That's all you got to do. Just listen to the people above you because I'm sure they know something a little bit more than than what you do coming into this. Uh, so yeah, I mean that's my best advice. Follow the game plan. If you stick to the script, you're always going to kill it.
Awesome. 100%. Well, you guys heard it from Keegan himself. Follow the script, follow the playbook, come in with good energy, come in ready to crush, work hard. All the stuff a lot of people know, but they don't. They for some reason try to deny because they think that, they need something else. But you guys have it. You just gotta show it. Come ready to show it, come ready to prove it. And you guys will land roles. And you'll have a good time. Keegan, again, it was awesome to have you, man. Definitely would love to have you back sometime in the future to hear more about what you guys have got going on. Maybe when Home Genius is doing, 1 billion, we can talk again and go from there.
We're about 5 years away from that, but whenever you're ready to have me back, man, I'm ready to go.
Hey, I don't know if you're 5 years away. From 2 million to 100 in what, a couple of years? Who
Yeah,
knows?
it's been about 6 years since we've done that, but yeah, we're on pace to hit a quarter of a billion by the end of this year. Projections to be $1 billion company by 2030. So
There you
if
go.
that comes around sooner, I mean, hey, let's go celebrate. But I'm ready for the next 5 years, man. It's gonna be great.
That is awesome. And I'm sure your department's gonna grow massively to get you guys there. So yeah, as you guys grow out, we'd love to have you back and talk maybe some even higher level stuff when it comes to the recruiting process and maybe have you give some advice to other recruiters or sales managers out there who that are looking to bring on awesome talent because by then you would have interviewed thousands if you haven't already.
Right. No, I'm on board, man. Just whenever you send me that invite, I'll be there.
Awesome, man. It was great talking to you.
Yeah. Cheers. Take care.
Take care.